All right. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, let's go straight into the shout-outs because I think we have some loyal subscribers that I feel bad because we didn't give them a proper shout-out last time. We only gave a shout-out to Eddie. So, couples subscriber shout-outs for people who are loyal listeners of the podcast. Alex Bueller in Cincinnati. Shout out to Alex. And his dad, Ed. Because they listen to the podcast, and he says that they talk about the things that we talk about and just kind of go over what their thoughts are.
I heard that they disagree with everything you say.
Pretty sure that's only
They sound like smart people.
And then we have Ernesto on Instagram. Said he's a loyal listener. Jonas, who was at the game that we went to, but we didn't get a chance to meet up. We were going to do some interviews, and he just got stuck in traffic before, and then it was just a nightmare afterwards. But shout out to Jonas, your boy Jonas.
Yeah, shout out to Jonas. Everton fan. I don't know how I feel about that part, but we'll let it slide. And
then so we'll give some more shout outs later when, if you guys want a shout out, just let us know. We'll give you a shout out.
So wait, Jonas came to the game and you guys didn't go meet up with him? Was it just because he was wearing an Everton jersey, Georgie?
No, we don't know if he was. I did see, however, Jonas, let us know if you actually are a loyal listener, but let us know if you wore an Everton jersey, because I did see two people wearing an Everton jersey inside the stadium. But yeah, like Javi said, they were in contact the whole time for the most part, and I think he was stuck in traffic, so on the way to the game, so we didn't have much time to.
Next time, he says he's going to a couple more games though.
Well,
I forgot what game he said he was going to, but
Jonas, do me a favor, send your address to
address.
Javi. Yeah, I've got a present for you. I've got a present for you as an Everton fan. I've got a present for you.
Oh.
Joe's gonna hook you up with a present. All right. It's like when you. It's like
when you go like, no.
No, it's like at the end of the day.
Don't put it in the comments. Send it in the DMs directly on Instagram.
Yeah, give us your social security number, telephone.
No, I've got a present for you or two.
Okay, Joe's got a present for you, Jonas. So, all right. Anyway, moving on from the subscribers, shall we get into the pre-cap? Because we always do the pre-cap.
Let's do it.
So pre-cap is talk a little bit about the NGW podcast being on the road, because that was fun. That was the first time we did that. The USA tour that's going on right now with all the Premier League teams, because there's some interesting results. And I know it's preseason and stuff, but it's fun to kind of chat about the results and a little bit about the tactics going into the preseason. I want to talk a little bit about the Mexican national team, because there's some interesting stuff going on there that, I don't know. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts. I know you guys aren't as informed as probably I am, obviously, but I want to get your thoughts on that. And then the last thing I want to touch on in the pre-cap is some controversy in the Olympics with the Canadian national teams. So we'll talk about that, some interesting drone usage to try and get the edge. So we'll talk about that. And then we have two of our other usual segments, Laws of the Game. We'll talk a little bit about an interesting law that may or may not be changed soon. Some stuff going on or being introduced this year into the Premier League. And then fun facts, because we didn't do that. Well, we did. We did that last time, right? We did do fun facts. I did. I gave you a fun fact. It was you don't remember it, but I gave you one. We never skipped the fun fact section. Never.
If you say so.
So we'll do that. And then that'll be the episode for today. Episode number, Joe?
47.
How do you feel about that, Georgie?
We're very close to 50. Can we make it? Can we get it to 50? But I do want to ask Joe a question, because he is the stats guy. Have we improved since, what was it, a week ago?
Yes, because we now have some people who viewed a video recently, because we have some videos out there. But we still have some room to go in terms of our Instagram followers. But once we get to 50 episodes, I feel like it's just going to take off.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's just how it works.
It is. I'll tell you what, though, the fun thing recently, and we'll get into that right away, is the NGW podcast on the road. That was fun. So me and Joe couldn't make it. Joe already had plans, and we did ask him a little bit late, to be honest. But we ended up going to Liverpool, Real Betis. You guys already know, because I posted some of the stuff on the TikTok, Instagram, all the social media channels. That was really fun because, one, we got to see a game live, so we can analyze the tactics live, which is much different than watching it through the television. But we also got to interact with some fans, which is funny because we're not used to just taking the microphones outside and just starting to talk and interview people. I'll be honest, Georgie and I were a little bit nervous, right?
Oh, I was nervous. I don't like doing that stuff. Like I can sit here and talk to you. I'm not a social person. Like I'll be honest. I'm not like I have my people. I talk to the same people. I don't like going out in terms of that. Like I can go and play soccer with random people. I don't like doing interviews. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of stepped out of our comfort zone in a way to do that.
That was fun. It was kind of funny because I had the camera and I was recording Georgie. And so he was like a reporter. Like he was just standing there with the microphone, like, go on, talk. But the funny thing was, we were like, all right, we're trying to find people that we can do interviews with. A lot of them were just like general fans, like families and stuff. So we wanted to try and get some like true hardcore loyal supporters because they have more interesting takes, in my opinion. But the funny thing was, as soon as we took out the microphones and we started talking, people were like looking over and like, oh, can I get in that? Can I get in that? A couple of people like got really close to us and they're like, I want to get interviewed. So that's the key for the next time is just pull out the microphones. And Georgie also had a good idea. What was your idea about getting more people to come?
Oh, putting a sign. I got a question, and people would just come up. And I mean, who knows? It might not work, but the whole fun idea of it. Plus, if Joe comes, Joe's a social guy. Joe's gonna be the interview.
I'm gonna be the interview. I was gonna say I didn't. You actually did pretty well.
No. I felt like
you didn't look too nervous.
Oh,
especially for your first time doing it.
I hated it. I felt like a journalist the whole time. I was like,
well, you were.
I know, but like that's like, see, when we see here, it's like, it's different, you know, when we're sitting here in the room talking and we know each other, but it's one thing to like be the person. Well, it's more, actually, Javi does this, to be honest. Like right now, Javi's
like the one that leads kind
he's
of
the journalist.
He's the journalist in a way. Like for me,
but
like I got it easy. I'm just sitting here and like he asked me a question. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't even know like
but
the
thing is,
pre-cap.
I told Georgie, I was like, do you have any questions? And he's like, I'm just gonna kind of see what.
No.
Just gonna wing it. I'm super nervous in front of cameras and people. I'm just gonna wing it. Give me the microphone. Let's roll.
But it's different though, because you gotta roll with the vibe. Like, so for example, two kids, once we put out the microphone, our whole family was next to us and they were looking, and then the kids wanted to get in. So I'm not gonna ask the kids about what do you think about Arne Slot. Like they're like, whatever. You know, it's kind of like
the kid would have just given you a huge breakdown of everything he's done in his career, and you'd have been like,
yeah, but like they're nervous too. However, the next person that we did, he was all about it. Like he knew everything, so you can ask him those
more
deeper questions.
His name was Joe. I don't think I've ever met a Joe with some good takes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
so
fair.
that was
that's fair.
No, he was he had a good response to one of the questions that you asked him about Arne Slot.
Oh, great response. He was a professional. He covers Penn State. When we talked to him, so he covers Penn State, so he talks about football nonstop, and great response, great everything. I was like, bro, you want to take over?
Yeah, we need a fourth. Come on.
But it was good. It was fun to see. It was fun to get to interact with people, because I think there's going to be a lot of times where we get some really interesting takes. Especially what we should have done, and we didn't because it just got crazy afterwards. But what we will for the next one is get some interviews after, because that's the more important one. Because after the game, people are either very happy or they're very upset.
And it was also really dark, so it was very hard. If we would have had the camera, it would have been very. We
would have found a good spot.
Yeah.
But we got some things that we want to fix for the next time. But we're looking at the schedule. We're seeing if there's any other games that we could probably go to, and if we can, we'll be there. If not, you guys will see us some point in the future.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a fun experience. So I'd like to do that again. I think taking the podcast on the road, definitely something that we should consider more often, for sure. All right. So that was a good recap. USA tour, preseason tour. What do they call it? They have like a funky name.
They used to have the Champions Cup.
That's what
the international Champions Cup, right?
But it's not. I don't think it's called international.
Rebranded every year normally based on.
Yeah, I don't think there's a name for it. I don't
sponsorships.
Well, they can't really call it the International Champions Cup, because I mean some of these teams haven't won anything. Like, how are you going to say International Champions Cup and then bring Chelsea on? Right? To be honest. Anyway, I honestly didn't even mean that as a dig. It's true.
Wait. What have Arsenal won?
At that
FA Cup.
That's what I thought he was going to say. I was going to say, don't.
And then
don't,
we were
runners
up. We were runners up.
Stop it. We're not talking about 2 years. Stop it. We're not talking about
I'm just saying it's better than getting closer to the relegation zone than anything else.
Damn, is that Chelsea? That Chelsea?
Anyway, let's recap some of the games. So, way too early to really analyze anything, because most of these guys are still playing most of these teams are playing with their academies. But there are some teams that have, like Chelsea has a decent amount of players now. Manchester United, Manchester City was a mix, a lot of young guys. Manchester City losing to AC Milan 3-2. Did you watch that game, Georgie?
I watched
bit.
bits and pieces. I didn't watch the full thing, but the first half, AC Milan were like the first 20 minutes, from what I remember, they completely dominated, and then Man City somehow, their usual way, find a way to score. Haaland scores. By the way, it was AC Milan wanted a free kick, right? And they stopped playing, so everybody just kind of raised their arms and like, where's the free kick for the first goal, right?
Goal, yeah.
So that's kind of how it unfolded. But
yeah, and then Arsenal 2, Manchester United 1. Joe, let's get your thoughts on that one.
I did not watch that game.
Jesus. People are going to say, we can't tune into a podcast when we don't watch the games. Anyway, I'll start with that. I didn't watch the game either. No, I watched the game. Odegaard is another level. I've been saying this for a long time. And when I first said it, I think you, Georgie, probably were like, dude, get out of here. Because I was starting to compare him to like Stevie G and stuff like that. I think this guy is next level. Did you see the touch that he had in the back heel?
I did.
Unbelievable. Anyway, I think he is going to be a huge reason why we win the Premier League this year. Martin Odegaard.
I like that statement.
I like the fact that we are being very smart about the transfers and our roster build. Arteta's, I think that's one of his biggest strengths, is the fact that him and Edu are always making sure that there's competition in each spot. We just signed Calafiori, which is a really good.
It's great signing.
if honestly, if you're just thinking as a,
What are you shaking your head about?
yeah, what are you? Oh, he's mad because he wanted him. That's why he's mad.
I told Javi before the Euros, Calafiori is the one to watch. I want him at Liverpool. He's literally one of my, last year when I watched him in Bologna, I was like, this guy's legit.
He's legit.
Like the center back, like he can play left back, he can play center back. He's a obviously left footer. So good on the ball, off the ball, defending, everything.
And he's big.
There's no weakness. The only weakness that you can say is the injury-prone situation. But besides that, that's why I'm shaking my head, because I'm really pissed off that you guys got him. I mean, you guys have been amazing in this transfer window.
He had a very good Euros tournament as well, and I know they got knocked out a little bit earlier than they expected, but he did really well. But if you didn't think our back line was strong enough already, that's the thing. It's like most people would have been like, oh, the back line's fine. You guys got enough players there. But Arteta's like, no, make it even better. One of the best back lines in the Premier League. So
I think it shows that Arteta doesn't trust either that Timber can stay healthy for all of the games that we need, and doesn't trust Kivior or Zinchenko, because to me, one of them has to.
Yeah, I mean,
has to go this transfer window. Probably Zinchenko, I would assume, but we'll see.
I think Kivior was supposed to go to Bologna in exchange for Calafiori early on in the negotiations, and he just said, no, I'm not leaving. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get rid of him, or he just didn't want to go to Bologna, which is fair. But
I think the weakest link probably Zinchenko.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel bad, because when he came from Manchester City, I was like, I really wanted him to do well, because getting anytime you get a player from a team like Manchester City, they come with a different mentality and mindset, because they win everything.
Yep.
So when they don't win, it's like they get really upset. I mean, to be fair, Zinchenko cries after every single match. But he just hasn't performed to the level that we really needed him to perform. He's been very shaky, and then there's times where he's he's tried to be a little bit too creative, I guess, or maybe a little bit too confident, lose the ball in dangerous areas. I'm not a huge fan of Tomiyasu on the back line, but I'm hoping we can move that around, because I think you have to keep Gabriel, you have to keep Saliba, and you have to keep Ben White. Those are the three that I would keep out of the back line.
Yeah.
So then Calafiori steps in there, you can move it around to make it work somehow.
And you have Timber, who can play anywhere on the back line, and Calafiori can play anywhere on the left side. Ben White can play center back on the right or out wide right.
Yeah.
We are set.
We're doing pretty well.
Looking good.
We're doing pretty well. Georgie, how do you feel so far about your Liverpool non-existent transfer market?
we're just being patient. We're being smart about it. No, it's I don't know. We need a defensive mid. I truly believe we're gonna make two signings before the window ends, but defensive mid is a must.
Who do you think?
I don't know, to be honest. I like Joao Gomez from Wolves. He's not really. He's more of a defensive player who's gonna run around, tackle, get on the ball, like get the ball back for you. And I don't know if that really suits Arne Slot's style. I think he needs, like, I tweeted about this, but if Thiago was healthy, and I know that's a huge if, and if he still stayed at Liverpool, Thiago would have been the perfect player in the style with Arne Slot, because this guy can find you on the run, especially with the way they play 2-3, like quick passing, 5-yard passing, and then you have the long ball, like opportunity for somebody that he can find on the run, just next level. So I think Liverpool need to find somebody of that quality, which is pretty much impossible because Thiago is just unreal. But yeah, defensive midfielder, and I think a center back is a must. Left-footed player. That's why I thought Calafiori would have been perfect for Liverpool.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you what, from watching the game, I don't think I said this in my analysis. I posted an analysis video, but Endo was struggling. Like, passes even going backwards that he was messing up. Like, it's one thing if you're going to be one of those center mids that just passes the ball backwards and you're going to look cute in there just doing that, keeping it simple. But it's another thing when you're messing him up going backwards. Like, I don't know. It didn't look good. He looked like he was really struggling against a team that, to be fair, played the way that they needed to play against Liverpool to minimize the damage, because Arne Slot, 5-yard passes, get the ball into the midfield. And once you get the ball into the midfield, try and create. Betis was just clogging the midfield. Anytime Endo or Curtis got the ball, just no space. And so that was, like, if I was Carvalho, I'd be so frustrated watching that at playing in that game, because he's like literally he stayed out wide on the back line, and he would get ready to go. As soon as Endo would get the ball, he would start making the run. Never got played. I don't think he got played once. Or if he did, it wasn't a good ball. Just because there's not enough time, and Endo just didn't have the confidence to play that ball. Where Thiago gets the ball, understands when to pass it backwards, when to play it sideways, and all that stuff, and also can get that ball in behind at the right times and break those lines. So, sucks that he retired, but to be fair, he's one of those players that he's just always injured, so you can't keep him around.
Yeah, it's tough, but I don't know. I'm excited watching that live and watching the tactical side of it, because obviously when you're watching on TV, you only see where the ball is and kind of how the camera's moving. But when you're there live watching it, all the players react to different situations. It's kind of like it opens your mind a little bit about like the style and all that. And speaking about like the Liverpool style, Arne Slot, it's very, very early on, and I want to say I'm like, you can't really say you're very impressed in terms of like any team this early on, just because it's preseason, you don't have your players. But I love the fact that there is a style that you can see of how they want to play. And me and Javi talked about this on the way back. Some teams in this preseason, you watch and you still have no idea what. Like a perfect example is Manchester United under Ten Hag for the past, how long? I think he's like there for 2 years now, 3 years. I don't know. I think 2 years.
I think this is his third, right? Yeah,
he's about to be
going
his third,
into his
right?
third, yeah.
So like, you watch Manchester United and you don't know the style of play that they play. Like, for the most part, it's counter-attacking football, which is like the very, very basic of like tactical, like on the tactical side. So like a lot of these teams, like for example, Chelsea lost to Celtic, right, 4-1. A lot of the Chelsea fans, I don't know if they're really sarcastic or not, but it was like Maresca out, Maresca out, Maresca out. But you can clearly see, like when I watched Chelsea, I didn't watch them against Celtic. I watched them against Wrexham, the first game. You can see what they're trying to do. Inverted fullbacks, Reece James coming. Like it's just not clicking, but you can kind of tell like what they're trying to do, like what the style of play is. Where with Manchester United, it's that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about preseason games, because you can lose every single game in preseason and then end up winning the Premier League. Who knows? But what I would be worried about as a fan is if I watch my team and I can't tell what you're trying to do, and that's what worries me. But with like obviously Arsenal, Arteta's been there for a while, so there's a style of play. At Chelsea, brand new manager comes in, they might lose 4-1 against Celtic, but you can kind of tell what they're trying to do. And on top of that, the biggest benefit, one of the main teams, the benefiter out of this whole summer is Manchester United. If you look at their team, it's pretty much their starting 11. I don't think there's who's missing from Manchester United this early on. Usually this early on, you have players that are still like internet because Copa or Euros.
Still with Holiday. And
yeah,
things.
still Holiday. Manchester United, I can't tell you one player that's like Bruno. Bruno would be the only one.
Was Dalot missing too or no?
Delo might be missing as well. But like Euros came back. So like
Yeah.
Euros is
Mhm.
going to be a starter. Maguire's
Which-
back.
Yeah, but Euro got injured.
Yeah, Euro and Rasmus both.
Yeah, which they haven't said what the extent of his injury is, but that always sucks. Like you just spent a lot of money on a guy that a lot of teams were after, and he's really young, which I think they should have never spent that much money. But that's one of those things where people start panicking, and then next thing you know, you're overpaying for someone.
Yeah.
With 1 year left in his contract.
Yeah.
Usually those players you get for on the cheap. Well, not on
Mhm.
the cheap. I don't want to say on the cheap, but
They're
Like-
more willing to sell because
Yeah,
they
because they know.
he was supposedly, from what I read, he was pretty much forced out because Lou just said, you're not going to play this season. We're going to bench you because we know you're leaving on a
Yeah.
free, so we want you out to get some money. But the fact that Manchester United paid, it could work out in the end. I think he might be a really good player. But as a Liverpool fan, we were linked with him throughout the whole summer. I'm very, very glad we didn't pay 60+ million for an 18-year-old who's
Well, now he's injured.
and
Yeah.
he's
So-
down.
It is
They don't know how
wild.
long he's going to be.
Well, it just seems like Man United every single transfer window does this. Spends insane amounts of money on young players, just rolling the dice on it. But it's I don't know.
Anthony,
Yeah.
it's crazy. The fact that this guy still has not produced a single moment of real brilliance to show that he's worth anywhere near, what was it, 100 mil or whatever it was that they ended up paying for him, and he's still there. It's crazy, but it is what it is. Like sometimes you take losses. However, if I was Ineos or Radcliffe or whoever's in charge, you would definitely be questioning some of these decisions made by some of these people. Like, okay, you get really like one opportunity to fuck up a transfer of $100 million. You do that again, and like we need a new
Everyone.
director. Yeah, like a lot of people in that staff. But so Manchester United being Manchester United per usual. Chelsea losing 4-1 against Celtic. So Georgie, you like Maresca. You said there was a lot of which he said in his press conference as well. He was happy with how they played, their playing style. He just said defensively, lots of mistakes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the reason why. So I've been watching. What I like to do is I like to watch the inside the training for all these teams. And when I watched two of Chelsea's, and I really liked the way. One, he's very, very involved within the training, and while they're doing their like typical rondo or whatever and like training, he's talking about like formation and tactical stuff as well on top of just like the technical part, and then watching them against Wrexham in the first game, you can tell what they're trying to do. Like there's a style of like what they're trying to do. Whether it's gonna work or not, who knows? Because everybody wants their right backs to be center mids now, because that's what Reece James is in the. I didn't really watch the Celtic one, but I did see the highlights of like just like stupid mistakes. However, I did watch the game against Wrexham, and it was just I saw what they're trying to do, and I like what they're trying to do. It's just needs to be a bit quicker, and people need to be on the same page, which they weren't. Like Reece James as a right back, he's pretty much injured all last year, so coming back into it, not only are you not a right back anymore for the most part, in possession you come as pretty much a center mid, and you're trying to like distribute, and then you have two center backs who I don't think they're great on the ball, and if you're a center back in that formation, in that style of play, you're pretty much like a quarterback in terms of like distribution. Like you need to be able to ping that ball across 50, 60 yards to get to a player or on the run or whatever. And if you don't have a center back like that, trying to play that style, I don't think it's going to work. So those are things that Chelsea are going to spend money. Like we all know that now. So I'm sure they're going to go out in the transfer window and try to figure out. Plus they still have some players to come back. I don't know. I just like Maresca.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, who knows? You never really know if it's going to work out. But
here's the thing about preseason, right, is that you're not looking for results. So you don't care whether you lose, you win, you tie. Obviously, you want to win every game. But what you're looking for, and again, why I was pleasantly surprised at Liverpool, was some sort of an identity, right? Especially for these new coaches coming in. Because like Arteta, you don't really, you know what their playing style is going to be under Arteta. They've been doing it for a few years now. They're just getting better and better every year. Same thing with Pep. That's not going to change. So you're not really, for those games, I feel like most people are just really going to watch the players, see who's
Mhm.
coming back, see who's looking good. Some of the youngsters that are coming in that you saw maybe just a little bit last season, things like that. For Chelsea and for Liverpool, I just wanted to see an identity and a playing style, regardless of whether it works out or not. So I think if you're Maresca, you're not really too bothered about it. Are you bothered by the quality of the results? Absolutely. But like he even said, like, we know what we're trying to do. Just some mistakes at the back that we need to fix for the next few weeks. And teams like all the big teams in the Premier League typically are missing a lot of players from international duty. So it's hard because as much as you want to implement your philosophy, you do it twice because you do it for the guys that just came in, or the first guys that came in that didn't have a national team or weren't playing international football during the break. But then you have to do it again for all the guys that are actually going to be on the team when they all get back from their vacations and their breaks and stuff. So, Joe, in these preseason games, I think that's going to be my question for you is like, how do you rate the teams that we've been seeing? Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal, City. And what do you think about, like Maresca and Arne Slot?
I think it's too early to tell for Maresca, just based on kind of what you just mentioned in terms of, number one, switching everything and trying to play in a drastically different way than what they're used to, and having the type of players that they do. Like, to me, having Reece James come in as an inverted wingback doesn't necessarily fit his strengths. Like, I think Reece James is great making overlapping runs. So part of me starts thinking, are they going to try and get rid of Reece James and replace him with somebody else who can fit that style a little bit better? And in terms of Liverpool, it's the Endo piece I understand, and I feel like that is going to be something, if they can't figure out that position, it's going to be really, really hard for them to play the way that they want to play, just because so much will go through that, whoever's playing the 6 for you guys. And I don't know who else you really have
McAllister
to slide in there. I guess McAllister could do it, but I also would prefer to have someone else there and have McAllister further up the field with Soboslai, because that is a great pairing. But I mean, I think so far through the preseason, Arsenal's clearly like the most well-oiled machine, and even with putting players in different positions, like starting Timber as a center back, and moving people around, it still works. But I think also too, City is gonna, regardless of what they do in preseason, by the time that they get everybody back and fit and things are rolling, so many people have been there for so long that it's already ingrained in them what they need to do. So I genuinely think it's going to come down to City and Arsenal again. But
yeah,
Liverpool could sneak in.
I do like Arne Slot's playing style.
If you can get the players to make it work, yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest problem is I don't know if you guys have those players just yet, but I like the playing style. And fun fact, before we're not even in the fun fact section, but I'll give you a fun fact right now. Maresca, Arteta,
I thought you go
Ten Hag
somewhere else.
have all some in one way or another coached under Pep Guardiola as assistants. Now we could talk about the players, but that's a little bit more broad. Ten Hag was, I believe he was at Bayern Munich, the B team, when Pep was in Germany for 1 year. And Maresca was an assistant at Manchester City, and Arteta was an assistant at Manchester City. And listen, Georgie loves, all of a sudden, there's a bald manager at Liverpool, and Georgie, all of a sudden, he's like, Maresca, I love that guy too. But you never said that about Pep.
How do you come up with this?
It's just an interesting.
By the way, that's what I thought.
You never liked them. You never liked anyone with a bald head, bald-headed managers. You never liked. You don't like Joe. Let's be honest.
I love Joe,
but all of a sudden, Arne Slot comes into Liverpool, and you appreciate Maresca.
Yeah, I still don't appreciate Pep, but I will say this: one, Joe's about to get grilled in the comments for saying Chelsea might get rid of Reece James. You're gonna get grilled.
I know.
Just saying.
Joe loves
but
it.
if you're playing with inverted fullbacks, it doesn't.
You don't think Reece James has the ability of playing that way?
There's a difference between me saying I don't think he has the ability, because technically I think Reece James is very, very, very good. I'm saying it in terms of like what at his absolute best, that's not
where you see him at his best.
That's where I don't see him at his best. I think as if you have him playing out wide and making overlapping runs similar to Ben White, there's very few people who can defend that if you also have someone in front of him who can take people on 1v1. Because then you create an overload, and there's so many times Chelsea would score playing the ball through to Reece James, either when they would have an overload, and his first time crosses across the box with pace, to me, are like his best quality. Could he make it work? Yes. But I look at like if Trent struggles with it, and I think Trent is way more technical than Reece is in terms of on the ball and like pinging those long balls, that's where I'm thinking, well, if Trent's struggling with it, I don't see Reece James being great at it. And if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be worried of us getting rid of Reece James because of how good he is. And he's been, when he is healthy, a lot of times he is captain for them, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things like he's a Chelsea boy through and through, and I don't think they would get rid of him. But if that's how they want to play, they either have to get him acclimated to that and doing it well, or change the system or get rid of him. Like, you know what I mean?
Damn.
It kind of
Axe him.
It creates some tough decisions from a coaching perspective. If that's how you play, like as a coach, you normally have your specific way, like we are going to play this way. And if you can't fit into my system, as much as I love you or don't love you, like you don't fit. I'm sorry. And we're going to have to find someone who can do what we need. And it would be a shame for Chelsea to lose Reece James over that.
Damn.
That's a pretty good reply to your question there, Georgie.
Oh, comments are still coming. Don't worry. Comments are like, Reece James leaving. You would sell him? Oh, okay. Let me ask this. Would you sell him?
No.
Even if you were going to keep him as an inverted center mid or right back?
Would I sell him right now? No. Or this transfer window? No. Because you'd have to give him time, I think, to acclimate to it. Because that's the other part of this too. If they're going into this season and understanding, hey, we're going to be slow out of the gates. We're probably going to be having some players go out, players come in. Our whole team's not even back yet. And this Premier League is going to be, I think, very, very, very competitive, just like last year for the title, for the top four, for Europa League places. Like, I think it's going to be competitive everywhere. That dropping points early could bite some teams, but I think Liverpool, I think Chelsea with new managers and coming off of an international tournament puts these teams in a disadvantage out of the starting gates. That if they're going into the season and Chelsea is going, and everyone at Chelsea can be patient and say, hey, let's give Reece James some time. Let's see how he does with this new position and see how it all goes. I think if he can stay healthy, it could be very, very, very beneficial for them and keeping him long-term because he is your captain. But, like, no, I don't think they'll just go sell him right now, and I wouldn't do that if I was them. Like, watching Arsenal get rid of Van Persie and having him go to Manchester United, like, ripped my heart out in terms of, like, losing your captain and then watching him go to a rival. That I don't think Chelsea would make that same mistake, but
yeah, but to
at
be
the
fair,
same time, people are impatient sometimes. At
Arsenal
Chelsea,
Arsenal didn't want to let Van Persie go. Van Persie wanted to go to Manchester United.
True.
And so it's one thing if you're like, you have to get rid of him, but it's another thing when your own captain is like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go over here. That's crazy. Back then it was a step up to go to Manchester United. And now you want to stay as far away from that place as possible, especially if you're supposedly a lot of money in the transfer market. But anyway, the good thing is there's going to be a lot of changes this season, or there's going to be a lot of new playing styles, new coaches, a lot of change in general, which we haven't seen in a while, I think. But Maresca, Arne Slot, Lopetegui at West Ham, and I'm sure there's a few more that I've missed out, but it'll be interesting. It'll be a very interesting season. So we're excited for that one. But let's get out of the Premier League for now. I want to talk about the Mexican national team. So let me update you guys. Let me update the people as well. I'm not an expert. I hate and I love the Mexican national team. Like I'm the guy. I'm like, you know who I am? I'm like Gary Neville. I'm like, after each match, I absolutely trash them about how bad they've played. The coach needs to go. These players are trash. And then as soon as the national anthem starts before each game, I'm like singing it like full out, like watching the game, like screaming at the TV. But here's what's going on with the Mexican national team. So surprisingly, I looked up some information. They offered Jimmy Lozano a contract extension, not as a head coach. They offered him a demotion to learn under a more experienced coach. And I believe it was like until 2030. So think about that. And with a stipulation in there, and I think this was more of a gentleman's agreement, that he would be the head coach again. He declined and decided not to do it and just leave. All right, so that's one, which I think is, if it's true, I think it's a dumb move because the guy didn't have enough experience to be a head coach. We saw that. And I think giving him that opportunity again with the experience of learning, you have to like put your ego aside and say, okay, that's probably the best for me. However, that's a whole different story. Anyway, they just announced Javier Aguirre, El Vasco Aguirre is his nickname, to be the head coach with Rafa Marquez as his assistant. Ideally, in a perfect world, to bring Rafa Marquez as the next head coach. Rafa Marquez left his job at Barcelona B, where he was doing really well, to do this. All right, Javier Aguirre this is going to be his third stint with the Mexican national team. He's one of those guys that's been around since you can remember. Like when I was a kid, he was in his prime. He was like Mourinho in his prime, and now he's like Mourinho now. Anyway, this is the funny thing. He's got a fantastic resume when it comes to the clubs and teams he's coached. So he's coached, let me just tell you a few of the teams that he's coached, right? The national team of Mexico for the third time now, the national team of Japan, and the national team of Egypt. So 3 national teams that he's coached. He's coached like 3 or 4 different clubs in Mexico. Okay? In Spain alone, he coached Osasuna, Atletico Madrid, Espanyol, Mallorca, and Real Zaragoza before they got relegated or whatever, I believe. He coached a team in the UAE. All right? And then there was a few more. So when you think about that resume, that like just coaching that many teams in Spain alone and 3 national teams, not many people could say that they've coached 3 national teams. That's impressive, right? Here's some of the things that he's won. So I'll give you the good stuff first. He won the Mexican League, right? Not the one that Georgie plays in on Sundays here in Detroit. The actual Mexican League. In 1999. He was the Copa del Rey runner-up with Osasuna in 2004 and 2005. That's impressive. In UAE, he won the President's Cup and the League Cup with Al Wada. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's the team. He won the CONCACAF Champions League with Monterrey in 2021. He was another Copa del Rey runner-up again with Mallorca in 24. He won the Gold Cup with Mexico in 2009. And this is probably the most impressive one. He was a Copa America runner-up in 2001. And that's pretty impressive for Mexico because we don't typically get that far. So you look at that and you're like, it's not bad, right?
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. Very few managers in the world have a resume like that with that many teams that they've managed.
In spanning that long. I think the first title you said in there was in 2004?
1999.
1999. Jeez.
So, yeah, it's been
25
managed for
years.
a long time. Here's the criticism from the people, right? First one, he kicked the Panama player on the sidelines during a game once, which ended up like a brawl. The guy ended up fighting back. They both got red cards. So
I like it.
Those moments where like there's a player running down the sideline and like the coach just can't, for whatever reason, can't contain himself and just throws out a kick or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Had to apologize.
Shows passion. I love it.
I was gonna say the passion reminds me of Liquid Football's coach.
Oh, to be fair, I never kicked anybody on the sidelines. That's next level. He was let go by Japan because he was being indicted on match fixing when he was at Real Zaragoza. So they had like at Real Zaragoza during the last match of the season, the government said you've been match fixing. So he was indicted, went to court apparently or whatever. So Japan was like, yeah, we can't have this guy managing us. And this is obviously after he was in Zaragoza. So they let him go because of potential match fixing. All right. The biggest criticism out of all of them, which I remember because I was there, not there, but this was the time when I was really into it. In 2010 during the World Cup, he chose to bench a couple players. I believe it was Ochoa. I believe he benched Ochoa so that Conejo Perez was the goalkeeper. And Conejo Perez is like Mexican legend.
That was South Africa, wasn't it?
South Africa, right?
Yeah,
And
because Ochoa didn't play your guys' first game, I remember, yeah.
this guy, I'm getting off track, but Conejo Perez is like 5'9", goalkeeper.
Short ball dude.
Yes. Do you
Yep.
remember him?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Well, you guys had like what do you guys call him? The flea or something? What was
No,
his
Conejo
nickname?
means bunny.
Oh, bunny.
Bunny. He was bunny. The guy can jump. I saw him in a match once. Unbelievable. Like 5'9", and he was like on a trampoline the whole time. But during the World Cup, it was Ochoa was in a good moment, and people were like questioning like, why is Ochoa not starting? The biggest one though is he put a guy named Guille Franco, who is like your typical. I think he was playing maybe at like West Ham at that time. However, he was not good. He's like one of those guys that like as a fan, you're like, why is this guy playing? It's like the guy up top that can't score. Perfect comparison. Lukaku.
I thought you were going to say Darwin.
No. Darwin's convinced me to change a little bit because you got to give the guy credit. He's been better. But anyway, I digress. Guille Franco, like Lukaku, in his worst moments, where you're like, why is this guy on the field? Do you know who he benched for that? A guy that was in his prime. Chicharito at Manchester United. This man is playing for Manchester United, scoring goals.
Every weekend he was scoring goals. In every way possible. He's the only person I've ever seen shoot the ball off his own face.
Yeah, that was his very first goal for Manchester United, by the way. Was that like the was it the Shield or the Community Shield? I think it was against Chelsea or something like that. Anyway,
got the assist and the goal.
Once again, I digress. So he benches Chicharito for this guy, and I think when we were already knocked out, or when we were getting close to getting knocked out, he finally subs Chicharito on, and Chicharito scores against France. The game that we won 2-0 against France. And this was that France team that was just like a nightmare. People leaving the camp, coach having problems with the players, like players not wanting to train, that whole thing. But Chicharito scored a big goal. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Cuauhtemoc Blanco scored a PK as well that game. And he was still playing, I think. Anyway, again, I digress. But the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because I remember that was around the time that there was a lot of questions as to why, like, people were asking him in these press conferences, like, what's going on with your decision making in this tournament? He could not respond in the press conferences. He almost had this feeling of like his responses were almost like, it is what it is. Like that was I think that was we got knocked out by Argentina, I believe. That was the 3-1 knocked out by Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look that up.
In the round of 16?
Yeah, it was in the round of 16. I believe it was an amazing goal that
Maxi scored?
Maxi scored. Do you remember that against Osvaldo Sanchez?
Yep. I'm looking it up.
Look it up so I can keep chatting. But he had this like response about him that almost like he was not the one in control of the decisions. And he was just like, it is what it is. There was a lot of rumors, which is a crazy thing. There was a lot of rumors about the cartels having an influence in his decisions. People were talking about like he's being told what to do. He's being told who to play. And if he doesn't, like, there's consequences, obviously. And I'm not going to say whether it was true or not. It's a conspiracy. But I still vividly remember his responses were so just like, yeah, we're going to do our best against Argentina. But, Argentina it is what it is. They're a good team. And couldn't respond to the criticism about who he was playing and why he was playing them. One journalist ranked him as like the worst coach at that tournament as far as tactical decisions.
You were right, by the way. That was 3-1. You lost to Argentina.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Yeah. Well, not great because I questioned myself way too much there. But anyway, so this guy's back. That history of Mexico. The people who are on the positive side, a lot of the people who are on the positive side are like, this guy's old school. He's been around for so long. He's got a lot of experience. And he's like still traditional in the sense of like, we're going to work our asses off. We're not going to do this whole like, not try hard. Like the minimum requirement is to just bust your ass when you're on the field. And we're going to be old school in our methods. Whether that works or not. I think you can almost say he's one of those like Sean Dyche, Sam Allardyce, like comes in, people are a little scared, gets a couple good results off the, at the beginning, but then long term, just not great, and ends up getting sacked from like all of these places. So,
question for you, do you think that like that's the whole plan kind of why bringing in, because you've wanted Rafa to be the coach. I feel like for a year plus.
Well, I just thought he was a good candidate.
But that's why they're bringing him on, almost just having him sitting there ready to getting to know the players, getting to know everything, getting used to what it's like to be a national team coach with the expectation that he will be the one coaching the team as you go into the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's like the Band-Aid fix, right? When you're like, shit, what are we going to do? We can't keep Jaime Lozano. We can't keep him on. We have to sack him. So they let him go. Klopp's not going to want to take the Mexican national team, right? There's not a lot of coaches that would want to take it right now where we're at. So you try and fix it with somebody who you know has been there before and knows the players. It's like freaking, what's his face, Lampard at this point. Or you just bring him in whenever you need and then sack him. But I do like the idea of mixing somebody with some old school experience with somebody who's played at that level, but also has been under a different system in terms of coaching development at Barcelona. Because Rafa Marquez was obviously around the time of Guardiola coming in, just that whole Barcelona system. So I think mixing those two is good. And yes, I think it is, the whole plan is keep Aguirre or bring in Aguirre. If shit goes downhill quickly, we have Rafa Marquez already there who we can promote. And even if things do go well, we're only keeping him for a certain amount of time and then Rafa Marquez. I don't know if the plan is to change it before the World Cup. I think it's one of those things that over the next year, over the qualifiers or whatever, even though they're already qualified, they're going to take a look, and if they're not happy, they'll put Marquez on. So Georgie, given all of that information to you, I just gave you the whole book. What are your thoughts? Would you, if you were the federation, would you appoint him? Would you be comfortable?
No. No chance. What did we talk about the U.S. in the last one? Why are you bringing Greg back? This guy's third time. So the U.S. is about to do the same. Like, think about it. I know it's not exactly the same because they're...
Because he's actually won some things.
Few years, well, that too, but a few years apart as well. But my thing is, why not just give it to Rafa? Just let him work. You have 2 years. It's not like you have plenty of time. Well, in 2 years, how many games do you play?
Well, they don't have any. That's the hard part too. They don't have any competitive matches. That's between Canada, USA, and Mexico. These next 2 years are going to be weird because you don't have anything really to play for.
And that makes it even worse. Like, to keep somebody like that, because why not? Like, give Rafa the time. I know the friendlies to test stuff out, to figure stuff out, and like put his system in place. If you're gonna sack this guy, or if the plan is to sack this guy in 2 years, no result from now until the World Cup is gonna make people. They're friendlies, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no like.
You know what they say about the third time, George?
Yeah.
Well, I actually see. I disagree with you. I think it is a smart move because I think so many times these clubs more than countries really bring in like these ex-players who were club legends and don't set them up in a way where it works out well for them. I think of Xavi at Barcelona. I think of Lampard. And it's one of those things like I think it takes a certain type of person to be able to lead professional athletes. Do I think Rafa Marquez could do it? Yeah, but he's also, I don't think he hasn't been a professional head coach at a top level, has he?
Yeah, at the senior level, right?
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where that stage is a little bit different, where I think if I'm Mexico, I'm looking at it like Rafa Marquez is our plan for the long haul, but we want to make sure that he is set up for success and not just thrown to the wolves, sink or swim, and see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're putting Aguirre in a low risk situation because for the next 2 years they don't have much going on. So worst case scenario, you sack him, you already have your backup, which was the plan anyway. But you're also protecting Rafa Marquez because if in these next 2 years he would have had a nightmare as a head coach, for example, then what do you do right before the World Cup? So it's kind of if you think about it, it's a win-win because if it goes well, they keep him until the World Cup, and then Rafa Marquez, then you don't have an excuse, he's inexperienced or whatever. He's been there. He's got a little bit more experience. He can take over. But if it goes south, you just blame it on Aguirre and then promote Rafa Marquez. But you're also giving him, I mean, to be fair, regardless of the criticism and all of the shit that he's done, the man's been at every level. 3 national teams, 5 or 6 5 teams in Spain, a bunch of teams in Mexico.
What was the most recent?
He was in, was it Mallorca? I can't remember. He was just recently they just did not renew his contract in 2020. I think he was done in like 2023. Didn't renew his contract. He hasn't been doing anything since. But it was a team in Spain. I believe it was Mallorca.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Joe's pulling it up.
Yeah, Mallorca. 2022 to 2024.
Yeah. And they just didn't renew his contract.
They get relegated or what?
I hope not. Did they?
I have no idea.
But anyway, I think it's a solid plan by the Mexican Federation. I think the Mexican Federation should start looking to not just worry about the head coach, but start looking at the youth academies, their professional league, and they should. And you sent me an article about it's a topic for conversation at the next owners meeting that they might want to end promotion relegation in the federation, the Mexican league,
Because they want to base it off the MLS. Because they think the model works.
business model,
It does
Business
work for
model.
the owners. It's the
Yeah.
best model for the owners.
Yeah.
and it is an owners meeting.
Yeah.
So-
So
However, Georgie was freaking out. He's like, they're gonna take out relegation in Mexico, and I was like, no, they just said they submitted it as a topic for discussion at the owners meeting, but
owners meeting.
owners meeting.
Yeah.
I
So-
don't know. But okay, going back to that. You're telling me you can't find another manager that's a little bit, because you said he's a little bit more old school, like Sam Allardyce and all those guys. You can't find somebody that's more like the style that Rafa Marquez has to a point for the 2 years. You're telling me a guy who benched Chicharito and had all these problems within the actual same national team that he just took over is back. So, like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you, like...
Yeah, but Rafa Marquez is still, as a player at least, old school. He'd been in the national team for so long, played under Aguirre, played under everyone since the 90s or whatever it was.
Yeah, but he's in a new world of Barcelona style football and has a different
Right.
vision of the old school
They also
football.
might have just brought him in to help get the players to buy into the system too.
I
Because
mean,
it
that's-
is one of those things. Like if you're a Mexican young player or any player, like you look up to Rafa Marquez. I think everybody does because he was arguably the best Mexican ever. Maybe that's why they brought him in. Hey, help get people to buy into this system because we do need to build.
I can see
This
that
is a
more.
framework.
Like I would understand that a little bit more, but
I think,
like the guy was talked about linked with the Barca job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, but your national team, that hits different.
And
no,
a
no,
home
no,
World
no,
Cup.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like it's not like he had no options and he was literally like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll go be the assistant there. When potentially he could stay at Barcelona for another year or two, whatever, and get that head coach job.
Right.
Because obviously Xavi was
Yeah,
in
I
and
think,
out
but
and all that.
I think they promised it to him.
Like
They
the
must
head
have said
coach.
like, hey, you're going to be the next head coach.
Yeah.
We want to give this guy we want him to patch things up. And I think it's really, they're just protecting Rafa Marquez. Because like I said, he's going to be the head coach regardless if it goes well or if it goes bad. Because if it goes well, they said Vasco Aguirre did his job. He helped us in the transition. Now Rafa Marquez has a really good squad. If it doesn't go well, Vasco Aguirre fucked it up. We have Rafa Marquez here who's going to make it all better. So I think they're doing it more to protect him than anything. And they had to guarantee it to him.
But what would have happened if who was the previous coach who declined that?
Jaime Lozano?
So
Jimmy?
what if Lozano would have said yes? So then
Lozano instead of Marquez, probably, right?
yeah.
I don't know. They didn't specify what his position was. They just said demotion. They just said he was going to be within the federation, working under a coach and developing so that he would hopefully again take over around 2030. So yes, ideally, Rafa Marquez wouldn't have accepted that position if Jaime Lozano is supposed to be the next one in line if they give him a few more years. But it just puts everyone in a weird spot. Like it's hard for you to go in as a coach who they appointed full time essentially, get a demotion, and then go back up. Like how do you? I'm going back on what I was saying. I was like, oh, he should have taken it because you can't. It's hard for you to be a head coach somewhere, and then get demoted as an assistant coach and still have the same respect from the players when you pop back up to a head coach. It's just weird. Just a weird transition. So,
But that's my whole entire point though, because if he accepts that, Rafa Marquez
yeah, he's probably
Probably
It doesn't
not
come, yeah.
Yeah.
So in their mind, it's not even about Rafa Marquez. Like I know now it is, But it's like if I'm Rafa Marquez, I'm like a choice B in a way. Like they weren't really thinking about me.
Almost C,
there.
really, because
Nope.
it was like,
Yeah.
we have our head coach, then you are our second choice for the
Yeah.
backup coach.
So,
or for
and then you
assistant
bring
coach.
in a guy for a third time. Was he sacked the previous 2 times at Mexico? So like you bring in a guy that you sacked twice, and then you offered the job to a guy who's been not doing well recently, and you offered him to be the assistant to a guy that you already sacked twice, and I was nowhere near in that conversation. But now that the guy said no, I'm asked to come in, to your point, probably make everybody feel a lot better and make everybody more of a unit and be a team together and all that because he is a legend. So I would feel a little bit like, I don't know.
Like you're Rafa
I get what
Marquez,
you're
you
saying.
mean?
I get what you're saying, but I do think that they're looking out for like what are we going to look like in 5 to 7 years, and so they had to, whether it was Jaime Lozano or whether it was Rafa Marquez, that's who their main focus is on. They're just having Vasco Aguirre be like the Band-Aid in between that gets them to that point. But yeah, I could see.
I think you were talking about like if you were Rafa, why take it too, right? Is that what you're saying, Georgie? Or
Well,
no?
yeah, it's more of like, one, after knowing all that, obviously it's news to everyone. But like, I wasn't like your first choice, obviously, because you want me as an assistant. But that job, the assistant position, we assumed that like Lozano was offered that. If that's the case, I'm pretty much the third choice, and I'm leaving a job at Barcelona where I've done really, really well, and have been linked with the Barcelona head coaching job, and have been linked with plenty of other like top jobs around the world. So now you're going into, and it's different, like Javi said, because it is Mexico and he's a legendary. It means a lot more. So I completely understand that part. But you're pretty much saying for the next 6 years, 4 to 6 years, I'm gonna be there. I could be
I'd say 2 to 3, but yeah.
But let's say they do amazing. They're not gonna sack. They're not gonna sack him, right?
I think they will. They won't sack him, but it'll be like, thank you for your contribution.
We're not renewing your
forward.
contract.
Yeah, we're now going to move forward. And I think he even knows that. Like, he's not going to want to stay there for way too long. He's like, I mean, he's got to be getting close to his retirement now.
Yeah.
He's been coaching for so long. So I think he's probably like, he understands, especially if they're bringing Rafa Marquez in as his assistant. He knows, like, okay, they want me to take the team and get them back in the right direction before moving it forward to Rafa Marquez. So I think that's why he's.
I just hope it works out for Rafa because, I haven't watched anything, but everything that I've heard,
he's a legend, man.
I feel like
amazing.
I don't know. For me, I think it will work out really well for him because it gives him another opportunity. Because now he's moving to a senior team, he can be their low stakes environment type thing, and also too, he has the option if it is like completely and totally terrible. He doesn't have to take the head coaching job either, because that's the other piece of this. He could go there and watch how everything's run and be like, you know what? A year or two after, I'm just going back to club and I can get a head coaching job, because there's nothing like he doesn't have anything to lose except for the potential head coaching jobs he could potentially get offered, but I still think people would offer them to him, and he can learn.
I don't think it puts him in any risk of losing the opportunity to coach Barca, because Barca doesn't go after managers based on their current form. They go based off of managers who have some sort of a relationship with the club.
Yeah.
So they'll look at legends and stuff like that. And Rafa Marquez, regardless of whether obviously he has to do a good job, but I think they'll always keep him as a candidate, because when they think about those future candidates for Barcelona, they want former players, former legends. So anyway, interesting to see what happens in the next year. Who will be our manager going into the World Cup?
I predict the U.S. manager for the World Cup will be Greg. Third time's a charm.
All right, that's got to be completely out of the question.
Oh my!
There'll be riots. There'll be serious
you want to talk
riots
about
going
getting attacked in the comments?
Yeah,
we will get canceled.
If Georgie seriously requests Greg Berhalter to be the coach for
Greg for 2026?
Yeah,
Yes.
No chance. We'll leave that one for a different time. The United States deserves a whole nother conversation. But a little bit further up the border from the United States, though, Canada. So Bev Priestman was the women's coach, who's been there. I believe she won the Olympics with them in 2021. So successful, yes, until they found out just recently that Canada is under some serious, they're under the microscope right now because they're in trouble because they've been spying on their opponents using drones. I believe it, like the first incident that was reported was like in 2022 or something like that.
I think 2021 or something like that.
Yeah. So they found out that it's not just the women, it was the men's as well, right? Did you hear that was like the whole federation? It was
the whole
the male coach before Jesse Marsh.
Yeah.
Because he just took over. So my boy Jesse, he wouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. He
didn't even have time to do it. That's
no, I know.
The good thing if I'm him, I'm like,
But if you've seen him talk and you've seen him the way he is, he doesn't strike you as the guy that would go like the extra mile cheating wise to do that. He'd be like the guy, like, guys, cut that shit out. Like, we're not going to use drones to, like, that just makes us look really stupid, especially after all the criticism that he's given the United States for all the stuff that they're doing. So I feel like he wouldn't do that. However, the women's coach, she looks intense, man. If you look at the pictures, have you seen the pictures of her?
She does look very
She looks
intense.
pretty intense. So I guess what do we think about this? Like from a coach's perspective, I completely understand wanting to get as much of an edge as possible. And clearly, if you've won something, you won the Olympics in 2021, you had a little bit of an edge, or you're a good team, obviously, on top of that. But so for them, it pays off. However, I really don't think, not that it doesn't make a difference, but like,
that can't be the difference that gets you
yeah, that's what I would say. Like, not only that, but you're also you're starting to overanalyze, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, Marcelo Bielsa came out with that the one time that he got in trouble for spying on a practice session or for Barcelona or whoever it was, right? And he did a press conference with the reporters, brought his binder, and went over not everything, but he went over every piece of information that he gathered of Barcelona. And he did this whole press conference just to say...
It was Leeds, wasn't it?
Was it?
He was at Leeds. Remember in the documentary?
Yeah, I believe. I think so. But they were playing Barcelona, right? Or no? Who was it that they were playing? I can't remember. Anyway, basically, So it was about another team, but he used the Barcelona example of when he was at a different place. So he said, "This is the information when I was at this place. This is the information that we got on Barcelona. A binder scouting report. You see a scouting report. It's a couple slides. A binder of every piece of information on every player in Barcelona, the way that they play, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are." And he's like, "We did all this, and we lost the game 3-0. He's like, "So just letting you guys know that you guys are, we caught you spying and all this bullshit." He's like, "It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you can do all you want. Barcelona's still going to win the game." For me, I kind of find some truth in that. You might be able to film with drone footage. However, drones, Joe made this point earlier, drones are loud. You can hear the fans whirring, right?
That's the crazy part to me is if I was a player, like I've been playing before and either like friends will put up a drone or a coach would or something, like in every time it freaks me out at first because it sounds like either a big, huge bee is about to hit you in the face or like there's some type of plane coming at you. Like I don't understand how they were able to get footage that was really that helpful. Maybe they have access to much better drones in Canada, but that was the first thing that jumps out to me. And then the second thing, to your point, I could see it like at a specific level, every little bit helps, but who were they recording? Were they recording every single team they were going to face in their group, every single team they could face? Because to me, you would need it more in the later rounds, and you don't know who you're going to face in the later rounds. It could be the United States, it could be France, it could be Germany, it could be whomever. So who are you droning?
Oh, I assume it was like right before, like a few days before the games, as teams are like getting ready to play Canada, because that's the only time you can actually see the tactical stuff. Because like if it's 2 weeks before, nobody's doing tactical stuff then. Everybody's doing more of like technical work, whatever.
But 2 weeks before, you're implementing your playing style. It wouldn't make sense like the day before a game, right? Because the day before a game, everybody's just doing some light stuff. But I guess
like walkthroughs, like when you do a walkthrough, like you
maybe like set pieces, for example, right? Yeah. Like how do they set up on set pieces? So like that stuff would be useful. But back to Joe's point, like you have to fly. I have a drone, so I know how it works. You have to fly the drone at a certain height to where it's really not super high, but it's pretty high to the point where you can't see it, and you can't hear it. So at that point, you're looking at the field and you see a bunch of specks. Like you're not really seeing, like you can't pick out which player's which. You can kind of get maybe like a tactical perspective, but like if you're not doing 11v11, you're not really getting any information because you're just seeing a bunch of random stuff. So I don't think it was as useful as people think. However, it is definitely should not be allowed. That's one thing I think we can agree on is like they should not just say, oh yeah, you can drone another team's training session.
For sure.
So, I mean, Georgie could work for Canada.
No. I'm not. No, I agree. You shouldn't. But I do have to say, as a coach, why in the world would you show your players?
Yeah. So.
What?
Did you have the article? Or did you read an article that said like 17 players were shown?
Yeah.
What was it? What did it say?
Well, that's all I read. That like they had a meeting a day before the game or 2 days before, whoever they were playing, and they showed the footage from the drone of the other team. In my head, I'm thinking, why in the world? Like, it's one thing for your coaching staff, maybe 1 or 2 people to know, but you're opening this pretty much cheating scandal to 20, 30 people in a whole room. How do you expect that to never get out?
Yeah. So I think that was the problem because I don't think it. Well, the problem was they got caught. Like somebody caught the drone. They submitted an official like, hey, we think they're spying on us or whatever. Because if you see a drone, it's gonna come to your head. It might be the other team, but it could also be just some kids in.
That's who I would have thought
around, right?
Like that to me is more logical than the other team. Is a fan just like, hey, I'm gonna record this training session and like.
Right.
Put it on YouTube to get a bunch of likes or something.
That's what I would have done, right? Like if we were around there and we were like, oh, dude, let's put the drone up and see if we can see what they're doing, right? But yeah, I'm sure it came across like, hey, it could be the other team that's spying on us or whatever. But back to Georgie's point, you do it as coaching staff because you know what you're doing is wrong, but you're all in it and you're all like, okay, we can agree, like, fuck it, this is how we're gonna win games. Like, let's do it. The first thing you say is like, this doesn't leave the room. The whole point of the coaching staff, the whole point is for them to take all of the information that they have from the scouting reports, from the drone footage in this case, and prepare it in a way that it's easiest to transfer to the players. Because you're not just going to give them all the information you get. You're not going to give it to the players because they're going to forget. They're so focused on their playing and just actually doing the stuff on the pitch that they're not going to want to read books and see binders and watch hours of video. You have to condense it in a way and say, this is their playing style. This is what we want to do. These are the tactics for this game, and you guys go out there and do it. And that's how you get the information across. Why in the world would you put them in a room, put a freaking projector or whatever, and say, hey, guys, this is clearly training footage of a team that they didn't grant us access to because nobody would. Knowing on another note, Canada's some of the nicest people are in Canada, right? They're known for being supposedly being really nice. You don't think out of all those people in that room, out of all those players, a few of them would have looked at each other and been like, dude, this is not okay. Like we're not okay with this. Like it's one thing that we want to win, but seeing stuff that now we're a part of. So of course, at some point, somebody was like, yeah, we got to tell somebody because it's not okay.
I feel bad for the players too. Cause like going to an Olympics is a once in a lifetime event, let alone having a chance to potentially go to the knockout stages, medal, you know what I mean? And like coming home with a medal and wearing it around your neck in front of your friends, your family, your entire country. But like deep down, you cheated to get there. And like, if I was a player, like you really put the players in a really tough position because they've worked their whole lives for these moments. And then the day before a game, they have to sit and watch footage that some of them are probably thinking, I don't want to watch this footage because by me watching it, I'm now also part of it. But then you know what I mean? What do? You have to go through with it. But then it takes away their life's work. And that, like, to me is like the saddest part of all of it. Obviously it's bad that they cheated and all of those things. But like the saddest part to me is these players who've worked for decades to have these moments. Everyone will look at it differently and they're also going to feel about it differently too. Yeah. That's sad.
So in conclusion, Liquid Football is going to be reaching out to Beth Priestman to see if she wants to come in and be the manager for Liquid Football next season. I'm excited.
She can drone or actually go to any other team's training session. Nobody will care.
Yeah, she can even. She can even show up in full Liquid Football gear. Yeah. They won't even care. But so we'll see. That's still a story that's kind of unfolding, and they're gonna, I think, in the next few weeks, they're gonna really see, once they do like a proper investigation, they're gonna really see how messed up that whole situation was. Because if they'd been doing it, not only, but here's the thing, it wasn't, from what I've been reading, it wasn't just like an assistant coach who had a drone. It's like, hey, I have a drone, I do it. They're hiring a company to go and do this. They're contracting people to go and do this.
Dude,
it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
But the US one, the Canada team, the women's team, they got deducted 6 points, and they can still potentially win the group on this Olympics. Because right now they're at 0 because they were -6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they just beat France today. So now they play Colombia next, and potentially could.
If they win, they go through.
Like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So, are you saying that the punishment was not hard? Like, what do you think would be the fair punishment? Would it be 6 point deduction? Well, here's the other thing though. So far, I don't think they have evidence of like a huge scandal. Like this has been going on for years or decades or whatever. I think they've gotten proof that some of these games were affected. So they're like, you lose this game, you lose this game. That's fair. Do you think they should just been kicked out of the Olympics?
I don't know the full story. It's like, the story's still unfolding. So I don't think we know like the full context of how many games, how many years, and all that stuff. But then again, like if you're deducting points already, you probably know all the details. It just hasn't been out in the public. Like you can't just start we'll take 6 here and we'll take 10 next year and then we'll take 5 next. Like when does it stop?
I think they thought. I feel like they gave them 6. Like, oh, there's no way they'll get out of the group with 6, but they have a chance, so we can say we didn't just DQ them. And now I think they're going to get out of the group. I watch Canada win the whole thing. Watch Canada come home with the medal, and
then like, what can you say at that point?
Yeah. I think it also, as far as the Olympic structure goes for the games, it doesn't mess everything up. Because if you disqualify them, now you're affecting more teams than just Canada. Because now you're affecting whoever else is in their group of saying, no, you're not going to play this game or this game.
Mm-hmm. So there's less games. You have to.
There's less games.
They lose all the money from the tickets.
Right. So it messes that whole thing up. Whereas this way, they're basically saying, because if, like, for example, they deduct them 9 points, let's say. They can't get out of their group. Why would they play? They just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you deduct them 6 and you're saying you can still technically make it, but we're hoping that you don't make it because anybody progressing with 3 points is like the whole group is kind of tough at that point, right? So they're doing it in the best way to not screw up the whole structure and not mess up and not make it look like a shit show and still punish Canada. But it looks like Canada still gets out of the group, still progresses, and then, like Joe says, imagine they win it. They win it all.
I think it's just one of those things. There's random moments I get like feelings like, oh, that they'll be able to do so. They obviously have to beat Colombia, which is not an easy thing to do. But if they get out of the group, it's one of those teams where it's like, I wouldn't want to face a team that has a reason to continue to like fight. And any of those players that were around before are probably thinking like, oh, we might get our other medals stripped. This is my only chance to get a medal. We're clearly not using drones now. That coach is gone.
I don't know, but let's move on. We'll
Canada.
We'll keep an eye on that story. Let's move into the 2 other segments that we have today. Laws of the game is the next one. All right. So this is a segment that we do. It's just basically anything to do with how the game is played. We typically do it in the form of a trivia question, where I question you guys, but we ran out of those trivia questions because there's only so much gray area that we don't know already. But the big one that's been happening recently that there's a lot of controversy is penalties. The way penalties are taken. It's been happening at every level now, but the pause run up. Players go, they kind of slow down, they kind of stop, they wait for the goalkeeper to dive, and then they kick the ball. Getting to the point where it's, I assume ever since that was introduced, or if you look at every single one of those penalties, I wonder what the percentages are of how many get scored versus a traditional run-up, how many get scored. Because you would think it's higher because in my opinion, it's really unfair for the goalkeepers. Neymar was the first one that did a fake. He did a fake, pulled his foot back, and then scored. And then as soon as he did that, they were like, oh, well, we got to cut that off because That can't happen. So now the official way to do it is it has to be a continued movement, right? A continuous
You have to be
movement.
always moving forward at some speed. Yeah.
So you cannot like pretend to shoot, put your foot back, and then kick it again. But they do this. They go, they stop, and then they kick it. Your guys' thoughts on whether that's, first of all, is it gonna be changed, and should it be changed?
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can go first because
on
the rant.
I don't think it should be changed.
Fuck.
Panta Georgie over here.
Oh, hey, this is gonna be a good comment. I don't think it should be changed. Reason being is taking a penalty, especially in a high pressure situation, to have the nerve to go slow and to pause and to look at the goalie or pull an Ivan Toney and never look at the ball, to me is a skill in itself that I think if you are that good and that confident and can pull it off, more power to you. I do think that the continuous movement is a fair rule. And the only thing I guess I might add to it is like having some level of time limit from once the ref blows the whistle to the ball has to at least be touched in terms of like going insanely slow. I don't think anyone's gotten to that point yet. The closest one I think of is like Pogba with his like super suit. He would just and not move anywhere. But no, I don't think that they should change the rule for it. And I'm excited to hear why Georgie disagrees
we'll hand it over
with me.
We'll hand it over to Georgie for his rebuttal.
Fucking hell, Joe. They better fucking change that shit because it's
Why?
embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. I'll tell you why.
Give me a name of a penalty taker that you look at and it's it's embarrassing watching him take
I'll
a
tell you
penalty.
the reason why it's embarrassing. I'll tell you the reason. I'm watching the Euros. Lewandowski does it.
Mhm.
One of the best strikers ever.
Yeah.
He does it. Misses. They go on the VAR. Maignan, who saved the PK,
Was offline.
amazing, off the line. That's
Yeah.
bullshit. You can't do that. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
That's the whole point. That's why they do it slow, so they can move him off the line, so it gives them an advantage.
But that's the whole point. If you're gonna go slow, the whole point of giving a penalty, you're already at an advantage of a free shot, and you have a goalkeeper standing in there. I don't know what the stats are in terms of
Somewhere like 60-something% gets scored. Typically.
So you already have an advantage of like this is your free shot. That's the whole point of a penalty. You get a free shot.
No, sorry, maybe not 60. It was like two-thirds of every penalty, or maybe a little bit more. I can't remember, but it was definitely
On the upper.
obviously on
Get
the upper
scored
side.
just in general.
Yeah, just in general.
So like for example, if you're gonna have the striker or whoever's taking it have more of an advantage in terms of, like slowing down and doing all that stuff, then you can't blame the goalkeeper for diving too early or going too early. It's not the whole point.
Sorry, hold on. Didn't mean to cut you off, but just looking it up, somewhere between 85 and 89% actually get scored.
That's high.
Mhm.
So you're already in a huge
Yeah,
advantage.
you have a huge advantage.
But my whole point is this: if you're not going to change the penalty stuff in terms of like the players taking the penalty and they can do whatever they want as they can as long as there's a forward movement, then you can't blame the goalkeeper for getting off the line expecting that player to take the shot, because as soon as if for example Lewandowski, he went up, he kind of stopped, fair enough, forward movement, whatever the rules are, he kept going a little bit, and then Maignan jumped. He shot it, and it got saved. So Lewandowski missed the penalty. They go to VAR. Magnan's foot was like half an inch off the line. Because why? Because he had to jump early in order to be able to make an attempt to save it. And it's not his fault that Lewandowski pretty much stopped. So if you can't have that and not change the goalkeeping rule, because it makes like you're actually given the advantage, like full on advantage of like 99%. It makes no sense. If you're gonna let the attackers do their thing, then you need to let the goalkeepers do their thing and be allowed to not come off the line on purpose like 3-4 yards. But if they're like half an inch to an inch, whatever, off the line, you can't blame them for that because the guy stopped.
I know, but then you're saying so what is the acceptable distance that can be off the line then? Because if you're going
That's
to change
the whole point.
So if you're going to, or are you saying they just remove the rule entirely and you have to run?
No, you just
Like what would the rule be then?
the rule would be what do you
can't
used to
slow
be before?
down?
Like stop doing this. Think about this as a
Stop doing this
goalkeeper.
bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much.
They can have to write that in the. It has to be specific.
Well, we'll go back to how it was before. You can't watching that and then watch a goalkeeper make a legit save without trying to cheat the rules, while you have a player not cheating the rules but getting an extra advantage.
There's also
it's not fair.
Well, there's also plenty of a penalty kick in general is not fair. So we can't like say, well, now it's not fair. It's like it's more not fair because it's just already not fair. The
it's definitely a lot more not fair.
Well, there's plenty of people who have slow run-ups. And when you do a slow run-up like that, there's a lot of people who can't get the power behind it. They can't get it to the corners or they miss the net. It happens all of the time too. Because it's not like it's, I know that.
Yeah.
But that's the gamble the shooter takes by going slow is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
but
does Harry Kane ever go slow? No, he always goes fast. Like there's certain people who do it, and there's a reason why other people don't do it because it's very, very, very hard to do.
So you're saying
we're not debating the slow versus the fast run up. It's less about that and more about
the goalkeeper,
the fluidity of the actual kick, and obviously a little bit about the run up, but the last couple steps,
Two
right?
steps. So like, is what Tony does okay?
I can't even.
Like he slowly walks to the ball. Plants his foot.
Stops. This is what I would do.
Stares at the goalie, and then swings his foot through.
I would have the rule: continuous movement. You can't slow down. Your whole movement has to be the same. So if you're gonna do what Pogba does, Lewandowski does this. He sprints towards it, slowly goes, sprints toward it, slowly goes, then shoots. How is a goalkeeper supposed to react to that? There's absolutely no help for the goalkeeper when you're already at a huge disadvantage. There's a difference if you're Pogba, right, where he does a slow run up and like it's continuous, like boom, 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 and you know he's gonna kick it, and then it's like very slow throughout.
So you're saying they have to have the same speed the whole way through?
Yeah, they should.
But then how do you gauge that? They can't get offsides right. You think they're gonna be able to get the speed of the runner right?
Let the goalkeeper move off the line. If they're trying to not like jump off the line, but if their foot is barely off the line because somebody decided to slow down, that's not fair. Mignon, perfect save. And I'm pissed off because I lost money in that game. However,
that's really what he's upset
and the truth comes out.
No, but and then it's happened few more times where a goalkeeper would make a save and then they go to VAR and then the foot was off the line because of a slow run up and the guy slows down and they jump.
I will say the one you're talking about with Lewandowski that one did suck just because of that fact of like he wasn't off the line much. And it was a really, really good save on a really good penalty. However, this is like by changing this rule, the wrinkle you'd have to throw in here, I don't think there's any way you could have something that is completely and totally objective where there's not other bigger issues that will come from it, opposed to like there's a handful of players who do it well. Let them continue to do it until it becomes something where everyone's doing it, and then I think you might have a conversation. But I don't think it's a big enough thing now to go change a rule about.
Let me interject here. I'm going to agree kind of with both of you. So for me, I think a penalty is already clearly an advantage for the attacker, an unfair advantage for the goalkeepers. You're not expected to save it. Typically, it's going to go in, and that's it. I don't think you should get more of an advantage than that. And I think now strikers or whoever's taking the penalties are starting to take a really unfair advantage with this whole stutter step, because at some point as a goalkeeper, you do have to move. You already have to move before the ball is kicked if you want to try and save it, right? You can't wait until the ball is kicked and then have a chance, especially if it gets kicked to one side. So I think that part is bullshit in that it's almost getting to the point where it's pointless to even have it. Just mark the goal, right? Not that far. But I also agree with Joe saying that if you are going to let the goalkeepers have an advantage by letting them get off the line, now there's way too much gray area, because a goalkeeper now, as soon as the referee blows the whistle, why aren't they going to take 2.5 steps? They might start with half a step off the line, but then in 6 months, goalkeepers are going to be 3 or 4 big steps off the line. They'll be at the 6.
If you want to stutter, then
right,
that's fair.
But what I'm saying,
one step of Peter Cechs is different than one step of Casillas. Like one step can be
right. So what I'm saying is that I don't think that's a way to go about it, because then you're just gonna mess everything up, because now you're looking at the player taking the penalty is going to be upset, because imagine a guy with a slow run up and the goalkeeper just comes off his line and just stands in front of him, and the ref's going to be like, no, you can't do that either. So in my opinion, though, I disagree with Joe in the sense that it becomes too complicated for the referees. I think it's going to be tricky at first because you're going to call back a lot of penalties. You're going to start telling players, nope, not a fluid motion. I think it just has to be that. It has to be listed as a penalty must be a fluid motion. Whether it's slow, whether it's fast.
That's so subjective.
Because no, but here's the thing. No,
fluid motion.
But here's what I'm telling you, though,
Fluid
Joe.
doesn't even move at the same speed all the time.
But here's what I'm telling you, though. We didn't used to have this issue until what? 10 years ago? 7, 8 years ago. When Neymar started doing, and then a while ago, right? Let's say 10 years ago, this wasn't an issue. People would come and take a penalty, and it was a normal penalty, right? Goalkeepers had to stay on their line. It wasn't an issue. We just got to go back to that. We just got to say, hey, we just got to do it like before, where people, whether it was slow or fast or whatever, people did one continuous movement. There was no stutter steps or anything like that. You go and you take the shot. And that's going to be the easiest way to do it, because at the beginning, yes, it's going to be like, nope, that wasn't a fluid motion. And then players are going to be like, what are you talking about? I changed my speed by 1% or whatever. Yeah. But eventually you're just going to say, hey, like, if you don't want to get called for it, if you don't want it to get taken back, just kick the ball like you're going to take a free kick. You don't see people stuttering the free kicks. Just take a free kick.
Well, see, I think you have to give goalies and keepers additional time to like figure this out, because again, to your point, this wasn't a thing 20 years ago. So a lot of these keepers didn't really start experiencing this until they got either into the professional ranks. But then you look at some of these goalies, look at Emi, look at Rui Costa and what they did in the tournaments over the summer. Those people could have stutter stepped, and some of them did, and they still couldn't score. That I think as this continues to go, you will start to see top tier keepers who can be very, very good at penalties and can stop people with a stutter penalty. Because if you're a keeper and you have the ability to stop penalties when someone slows down or stutters, all of a sudden you have huge value, especially in international football. That it's one of those things like, I don't know. To me, it's out of all the things that could be changed about the rules, this to me is super far down on the list because it doesn't change much. It doesn't impact, in my opinion, many, many games really at all. Let them continue to figure it out. Let's see if the players can figure it out. And until it becomes a thing where 3 or 4 out of 5 penalty takers are all doing a stutter in penalty shootouts and all of them scoring and none of them are missing, let it roll. Because I still remember, like, Jorginho is, I think, one of the kings of this too.
Yeah.
Missed multiple important penalties. He missed one in the Euros. Pickford saved it. And I don't think Pickford's the greatest keeper, especially with penalties. And then he's hit another one off the post. I forget what tournament that was in, but like those guys miss them too.
I'd actually be very surprised if this doesn't become a topic for huge discussion in like the rules meetings or whoever's doing the rules and stuff like that.
Really?
Because just because every time a penalty is taken now, commentators are talking about it. So it's not like something that's kind of going like that we're just noticing in the background. Every time a penalty is taken, you see the pundits and the commentators talking about how they don't like it, that it needs to be changed, things like that. So whether it needs to be fixed or not, I definitely think it's going to be a topic that's going to be addressed very soon. It's going to be one of the things on the top of the agenda for the rules that need to be changed.
Well, I don't know. So 2005, Liverpool versus AC Milan in the Champions League final went to PKs. There's videos of Jersey Dudek literally coming out like 3-4 yards, save those PKs. So the rule was changed for the goalkeepers. Of like, I don't know exactly what year.
Oh, to stay on the line?
To stay in the line. But I think it's in the last, like, what, 10 to 15 years.
I think it was I think the rule change with the goalies, with the strictness of it, came like after the delayed run-ups, because the delayed run-ups were causing more people to get off the line earlier. Yep. And like that was the way goalies were saving them to start was, oh, you're going to delay your run-up? It gives me an extra time to take a step or two.
Yeah. But see, that's what needs to be figured out, because you're crippling the goalkeeper of saying you need to stay on your line.
We can't say crippling the goalkeeper. Rui Costa just went perfect. He was perfect in a penalty shootout, and then Emi Martinez saved what? He also saved 2, 3?
Yeah, but you're already like PKs are already an advantage to the attacker. Now you're telling the goalkeeper stay on your line, which gives more of an advantage because you can't come out. Which I agree, they shouldn't be able to come out. But I also agree you shouldn't be doing some stupid ass stutter step to cause.
Well, here's the other thing though. Here's the other thing. More and more players are starting to do the stutter step. Mm-hmm. So I worry that maybe in the future, in the next 5 years, that's just how they're going to be taken. Because people will find that, if that is an advantage, then we all need to learn it. Because there's still some players that take a regular penalty, right?
Yeah.
If people are finding out, if they look at the statistics, and nowadays everything's judged by statistics and analytics and stuff like that, if they start to find out that stutter steps are more effective, every single player is going to start doing that for penalties, bar a few.
Once that
and then
happens,
that might be, and then that's when it might be a real problem, right? So I think, but we'll see. We'll move on. I think you guys can agree to disagree on this one. All right.
Listen, man,
Before you
watch
guys
my
get into a
boy,
fight.
my boy Magnon making that perfect save and then gets called back, so
Listen,
Lewandowski can have that.
Don't take it personal, Joe, because George is just mad because of the betting. He
Yeah.
lost money. It's got nothing to do with the actual rule.
It's happened
It's the
3
fact
times in the Euros and Copa that it's like
that you lost money on.
on slow penalty run-ups.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's move on. So we'll talk about. So that was what I had for laws of the game today. Fun facts. You guys ready?
Always.
The best section. Always leave it for the last.
We're doing
section.
trivia here?
We are gonna. I'm gonna do
Or
it
you
as a
gonna-
trivia question. So
Drop some knowledge on us.
I'm gonna. Well, I will drop some knowledge, but I'll let you guys guess first. Okay. Let me open up my page here, or my book. My, what is it called again?
While you're doing that, I have some trivia here, I
My
think, too,
soccer
actually.
book. All right. What's your trivia?
So let me give a little bit of backstory here. So the reason I couldn't go to, where'd you guys go? Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh with these two. I was at the National Sports Convention with my father, which is a huge sports card convention. I buy, sell, and collect specifically soccer cards. But
Very, very expensive ones too.
No, not yet. Not yet. Hopefully one day. But
You just told me how much you paid for one. Tell me how much you paid for the one that you just showed me.
it was $200.
I thought you said you paid more than that.
No. We were looking at a card on eBay that sold for
But you were about to.
$2,000.
Wait,
He was
wait,
bidding.
wait.
He was bidding on one. That was really
Since when is $200 not a lot of money for a card?
That's true. It is. I mean,
That
well,
is,
he
but
was
no,
making-
but to be fair, in the world of sports cards, $200 is like a pretty good card, not the most rare
yeah.
card. Yeah.
So I was looking up some players, your two favorite players, Darwin Nunez. And I did ask this to AI, so I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but
Joe loves AI.
I do love AI. Got to embrace the future. What was, and you guys can guess the dollar amount, what was the most expensive Darwin Nunez card ever sold? We're going to do it Price is Right rules as well. If you go over, bust.
Darwin Nunez.
And Javi, you'll go first for this one because it's his favorite player.
Darwin Nunez. Okay, so judging based off what you told me earlier about how much one of these cards was going for.
Wow,
no,
you
no,
gave him
no.
info before?
Not about
He
Darwin.
just told me like
Just
the most
a-
expensive card or something like that. Like one.
We were
really
looking at a
expensive.
Rafael Leao card earlier, yeah.
No. I'm talking about the Kylian Mbappe one.
Wow, so there's
Oh,
been
yeah.
multiple talks about
Anyway,
this. Wow.
I might have an unfair advantage.
He's going to get it right.
I'm gonna say Darwin Nunez most expensive card. I'm gonna go with 3,500.
Okay. Georgie?
Is the card of Darwin in the stands fighting? Because that would go for a lot of money.
That one has not been printed yet. That is too recent.
I will say 2 Gs.
You were both over $1,100.
Wow, just like Darwin, we
Yeah.
missed.
Just so yeah. That was good. That was good. All right,
Interesting.
I have one more for you.
All right,
Your favorite
this
player.
is a good segment by the way. I like this. Let's
Iker
go.
Casillas.
Oof,
Oh,
oof. You can't put a price on it.
Georgie.
Iker Casillas. Wait, tell me what you told Javi earlier about Leao.
I told him we were looking at eBay and the most expensive card for Mbappe that I could find on eBay was like 12 or 13,000. And the Leao card that I was looking at sold for, what did it sell for? 1,300?
1,300.
1,300.
3,000.
Price is right, which means all I have to do is go over by $1, right? And I win. Anyway, I'm not gonna do that.
But no, you're an Arsenal
Keep in
fan.
mind, no, I know,
You
but-
guys bid $1 for Luis Suarez. You might as well do this
Keep
too.
in mind though, he won the Euros, the World Cup, and the Euros after.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming this is probably a World Cup. Am I right in saying this is a World Cup edition card?
You're not getting any more. If I'm not
or is
giving
this a
any
rookie
hints.
card?
No more hints.
Because if it's a rookie card, that
I
might be
have to have
expensive.
I have to have a fair playing
Either
field
way.
for
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
slow run up Georgie over
Either
here.
way,
If I gave you
I'm
that,
going to
he'd
say
throw a
Iker
fit.
Casillas, one of the greatest goalkeepers in the history. If Darwin Nunez sold for 1,100 and Kylian Mbappe was at how much? 13,000?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm going to go somewhere around $7,500.
$8,600.
Hmm.
You were very close.
I was going to say 8,600 and then I changed my
very,
answers.
very, very close.
600 for a Casillas card.
Fact check us. By fact check us, I mean fact check Copilot. Throw it in the chat or throw it in the comments if there's some sales that were over that. 8,600 for Casillas and 1,100 for Darwin. But
What kind of cards are like? Is it like he said?
Darwin
rookie
was
card?
his rookie.
Okay.
And then for Casillas, just happened to be a superfractor. Pretty much just means it was 1 of 1. 2021 Topps Finest UEFA Champions League superfractor, graded PSA 10.
But what was it, like a Champions League edition or something? Or
Yeah,
is it just
Champions League edition.
I would think the World Cup would be more expensive.
That or his rookie
Some of those
one?
don't go. Some of those just don't ever go up for public market too. So it's only things that are
That's crazy.
sold at auction houses. Like some random person, if they had a 1 of 1 World Cup Casillas card, could sell it to another millionaire and no one would ever know about
Right.
it.
So what if I just open a box right now? Is it possible for me to get a Casillas card?
If
Yeah.
he's on the card list of those boxes, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to find one that he would be on, but yeah.
That's the thing. People buy, they don't just buy like packs. They don't just buy boxes. They buy cases. So like each case has a certain amount of boxes in, and each box has a certain amount of packs in. So like you sell the cases, for example, to card stores or whatever, wherever you get your cards. And then they put these boxes out on the display, right? And then they put the packs out. So people buy the packs. But like people are like, give me the whole freaking case, not just the
Big ballers like
Facts.
Georgie.
Are there any soccer card stores here in Michigan?
Just soccer card? No. But like there are stores that sell soccer cards, yeah. I have Three Kings is the one I normally go to out technically in Plymouth, I think.
Don't be giving them a shout out. They're not part of this, right?
They're good people. I'll give them a shout out.
give them a shout out. You should have done it at the beginning of the episode, not at the end of it. But anyway, fair
True
enough. Fair
fans
enough, fair
stay
enough,
all the way through.
fair enough.
And I know
Okay.
they'll stay all the way through. Mike and Kyle. They're
Good
good
stuff.
dudes.
All right. Love that. Love that. I like that segment, by the way, and I think we should keep it because
Yeah,
that was
I
a
like
good
that.
one. So, and there's a lot of different questions.
What's
that
the
you can
score,
ask them.
1-1?
Versus Price.
No, you both went over. So 1-0.
We both went over.
Yeah.
So, all right. Was that what the Price is Right rules
I've
are?
never
Yeah, if you
watched.
go over,
If you go over bust, yeah.
Okay.
That's why people bet $1.
All right, cool. Let's just finish it off with a FIFA World Cup trivia question. Fun facts. All right. Fastest hat trick. Who was it? How many minutes? What teams?
Can you
what
tell?
year?
Can you tell us what World Cup it was at least? Because like this is an impossible question. Can
Yes, it was the 1982 World Cup. So
Alright,
I'm
let's
sure
get the minutes.
Georgie, we were like 6 or 7 at that.
You, can I go? I don't even know. 82. We weren't even born.
Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna go with
Just guess the minute. How many minutes it took?
Cruyff. 58th minute.
No.
No. How many minutes?
it took for the 3 goals?
58. He's had all 3 goals by the 58th minute.
Oh, you're definitely wrong. You're definitely out of that.
Fastest hat trick in a World Cup.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like
There's not that many to
4
choose
minutes.
from.
Okay.
What?
All right.
It's something crazy to be in that damn book.
Bust. 7 minutes.
7
See?
minutes. Who was
7
the
minutes.
person? He didn't even guess a person. He didn't even guess a
All
person.
right, that's
say
the
the
next.
name.
That's the next part of it.
He can't say the.
Who's? I can never pronounce the names on these.
Oh my god.
I can pronounce the name. This one's an easy one, actually.
Have we heard of this player before?
No. No.
Great segment, Javi.
I don't even
We're
know,
do-
man.
We're doomed.
All right. So his name was Laszlo Kiss. Laszlo, first name. Kiss,
Thanks.
second name. All right. If your name was Laszlo Kiss, what country would you be playing for?
Switzerland.
I think you're close.
Austria.
Hungary. Hungary versus El Salvador in 1982.
7 minutes?
7 minutes. Another fun fact. which is why this will kind of make sense, it was also the biggest win in a World Cup. Hungary won 10-1 versus El Salvador.
Those are the really good Hungary teams.
But you also got to think, if Hungary beat El Salvador in that World Cup 10-1, you don't think there's another team that would have beaten them by more?
Oh, 100%.
Well, maybe it's
but Hungary was good. Hungary was good back in the day, though.
3 goals in 7 minutes. That's insane. Yeah. One person scored 3 goals in 7 minutes.
He probably scored the first 3 goals of the game, to be honest.
He would have had to, I would assume.
Yeah. But that's our fun fact.
Just between like celebration. I don't even know how you do that between celebrations and scoring goals. I guess they didn't celebrate as much as they do now.
No, celebrations weren't like not a big thing back in the day.
They did that.
They would just like run and like jump.
Go watch any of the old school videos, and you won't be able to unsee this. Every celebration, Super Mario Punch.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Every single one of them is a Super Mario Punch. I swear, from like 1800 until 2000 not 2000, but like 1995.
Yeah, it was like weird.
They all did it.
It was like a weird thing where it was one of the, I think it was an African team maybe. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember, but I think it was like Cameroon. It was a Cameroon or like Nigeria. Senegal maybe.
In the 94 World Cup, they were dancing all the time. I remember that.
Yeah, they like danced the corner flag, and that was like the first time people like celebrated like that. And then after that, all of a sudden, people were doing dancing celebrations, and celebrations came to be like a thing. But before that, it was just like, like Super Mario Punch, and then you run back to the middle.
Just like, Georgie wants to get rid of celebrations, just like the slow run up.
That's why we need more Balotellis. When I score a goal, it's like the mailman delivering mail. I just walk back. I did my job. That's it.
Until you lose a game on Sunday, and then they say that the mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays.
Until Balotelli comes in and tries to do the backheel flick and gets benched for the rest of the year at Man City, and then that's
Balotelli for sure celebrates too.
But anyway,
his infamous flex against Germany.
That was iconic.
That goal was sick.
That was iconic.
Dude,
that was iconic.
That was that was a Euros too, wasn't it?
That kept me like busy for a while because I was photoshopping a bunch of memes with Balotelli. I was just
saying like I worked out every day because I wanted to look like that.
No. I was literally on Photoshop because now it's easy. Now you can do everything from your phone. I was literally on Photoshop like taking pictures of me and inserting Balotelli in the background of him doing the celebration. And it was like I remember like a homecoming picture of me and my ex, and I put Balotelli in there for some reason. I don't know.
Glimpse
all right.
of Javi's childhood.
But that's it for today. It's a solid episode. That was one of the best episodes we've had so far, I think. I like that episode. It was fun. A little bit of back and forth action between Georgie and Joe. You guys all right? You guys calm down yet?
Yeah. Hey, that's what it's Phil Foden episode.
Look, 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Rolling. That's literally the same. I looked at 1 hour and 42 minutes last time. On the last episode.
That might have been, and this is probably the longest episode, like this one or last one. Probably the longest episode.
Sounds like we're getting professional. We're getting consistent.
So make sure you guys follow us. There we go, Joe. NGW podcast, or it's at the NGW podcast on most of our social media. But you guys will know that stuff's all in the description and stuff like that. So we looking good, Joe? We're 47 episodes in. How's our stats looking?
Stats are looking but you know what?
We're
here.
It's preseason.
It is preseason. We're here for the fun. We're here for the laughs. And as we continue to go on the road, I think the stats will continue to increase. Do we want to share with the group where we might go?
Or
you want to we're not going to record anything before then, right? Maybe a quick little clip.
Well, if you're still here, this is the problem. We've made a few commitments that, to be fair, has been partly like mostly my fault, to be honest. But
it's we've a team, Javi. We lose.
Yeah, I know. But we've made some commitments that we haven't followed up on.
He takes the responsibility.
We haven't followed up on, and people have caught us in the comments.
You're the Mexican head coach, man.
I felt
third time's a charm.
I did feel bad. Like one guy in the comments put, maybe you guys should stop making plans to go to Copa and not follow through.
Whoa! I went to Copa.
And I was
Somebody said that.
Wow. Somebody said that in the comments. Good. I think he was kind of partly joking a little bit, but
call us out. I appreciate it.
It hurt me. No, but the reason why Joe's saying that is because we're thinking about possibly going to Manchester City versus Chelsea on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. It's a 3-hour trip from Detroit, so it's not that far. 2 good teams that we're going to be following a lot throughout the season, so it'd be nice to get some coverage on them. And like I said, it was really, really fun. So we'll talk to the stats guy. All right. We'll talk to the Darwin Nunez lookalike.
The Wish.com version.
The Temu. Yeah.
take
and
that.
myself, and we'll see if we can make it happen. If we can make it happen, I will post a video just
Yeah,
like
let
announcing
people know.
it so that people can go and show up, and we'll plan some stuff out. There's a lot of things that we can do better from last time that I'm excited about. So we'll talk about it. We'll see if it makes sense. But besides that, I think that's it for this episode. Almost 2 hours. So some of us got a bedtime. We're out here. Sun's about to rise pretty soon. Anything, Georgie?
Life is good. Thank you guys for watching.
Joe?
Thank you as always for watching.
All right. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.